Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Welcome to In Books We Gist. This is a fun, cozy spot for us bookworms and gist lovers. This is where we unite. I am your host. My name is Nonye or Nono. I am delighted to have you here with me. First of all, let's address the name change. We used to be called something else. Now we are In Books We Gist. I feel like this name is more fitting for the ethos of what I have going on here, what I think of the show and what I want to project. While we are reading sometimes very serious books, and reading is a very serious thing, it's a very serious endeavor, I don't want it to be a lecture. I don't want it to have a lecture vibe. I want us to come here and have fun and just have gist sessions about what we're reading. Sometimes the book might spark up interesting ideas or remind us of memories, or bring up things from our memory that are interesting that I might want to touch upon. The bottom line is, I don't want this to be a very, very serious place. And I felt like the other name, not only did people not understand the inspiration behind it or what it meant, it was just a little bit too convoluted for what I wanted. And I feel like this name fits this channel and what I'm trying to do better. So guys, I want to officially welcome you to In Books We Gist. I am your host. My name is Nono Onoye. As I mentioned, I am so happy to have you on here with me. I hope you can come back. I hope whatever we talk about today inspires you to pick up, if not this book, another book of your interest. But without further ado, let's jump into the book of today, the book that inspired today's gist session, and it is Chinua Achebe's Chike and the River. Chike and the River. First of all, I have to tell you that this is what I call a long distance gist session, or long distance gisting. What is long distance gisting? Well, it is a book that I did not read recently. This is not the last book I read. It's not even the penultimate book I read. That is the second to last. Excuse me, my phone is ringing. Okay, and we're back. So I did not read this book recently. It's been a minute since I read it. I think I read this maybe about 4 months ago. So what happens with time, as you all know, or you may not know, you don't recollect every single thing you read about a book. And as time passes, you tend to forget a bit more and more. So I try to do this recording soon after I read a book. But what happens is, life happens and I don't always have the time. And then when time passes, I feel like I can't come and record and until I go back and review the book. Who has that time? Who has the time to read a book twice? I don't, and I have other books that I want to get to, so I found that was keeping me from coming on here to record, that amongst many other things. But I decided that I'm not going to let anything stop me this year. This is my year of action, el año de hechos. So I am going to try not to waste too much time in thinking and planning and wanting things to be perfect. I'm just going to dive into it. I think this is actually going to end up being a good thing, because what's going to happen is I'm just going to have to tell you the things I remember about the book. So I will end up talking about the most salient stories or ideas that the book brought about or evoked in me. So I think that will actually end up being a more compelling story or a more compelling gist session. So because of that, don't expect me to be 100% accurate. Give me a little bit of grace, when it is titled a long distance gist session. Diving right into Chike and the River. Chike and the River is one of the books by the late Chinua Achebe. It's not one of his popular ones. If you probably know Things Fall Apart, Arrow of God, which I have talked about in this channel. But there was a period of time where I was just looking for books from African authors, in particular Chinua. I wanted to dive into his mind, get into his, his creative thought process, and kind of see the stories that he came up with. That was one of the reasons I was looking for his stories. Number two is that I like stories from kind of older African authors. I'm talking about people that were publishing in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even early 90s, because I find that these people give us very authentic vignettes into our past, a past that many of us don't even remember that much, especially those of us in diaspora. So I was looking for just African authors, and I have a lot of those that I'm probably going to be bringing to you guys. In that time period, I was looking for things from Chinua, and this book kept coming up. So I was like, why not? Let me buy it. And when it came in, it was smaller than I expected. In many ways, this is kind of a children's book, and I'm actually having my first daughter, read this. So if you have children, this is actually a very good book for them. It's good in terms of, lessons that you want kids to learn, like things about individuality and hard work and not succumbing to peer pressure and finding authentic ways to pursue your goals. This would be a good book to teach children that, because Chike discovers a lot of this in his journey. But it's also fun and light if you want to read it as an adult. It's only about 90 pages. It's not a lot of book. I read this completely on my flight to and fro Connecticut, Maine. I went there with my friends for just like a quick girls trip, and if you know me, you know that I hate flying, so I'm always looking for things to distract me while I'm on the plane. Usually I'm watching a movie, but this was a domestic flight, and the domestic flights, well, the ones that I was on, there was no choice for a movie, so I had my book to read to keep me company, and I read it completely. By the time I got back home, the book was all read. And it was fun. So I will tell you that Chinua published this book. It was originally published in South Africa in 1966. We follow Chike in his journey as he grows up. Chike was born in Umuofia in southeast Nigeria. Quick fun fact, Umuofia, where Chike is from, is the same village that Okonkwo from Things Fall Apart is from. Just a quick fun fact there. But there's no correlation between the stories, not that I could tell. So Chike is living home. He's leaving his village of Umuofia, and he's going to live with his uncle in Onitsha. Now, if you're from the southeast Nigeria, or even if you're from Nigeria, you know that this is something that happens quite frequently. It's a common thing when children, when they come of age, or when they get to a certain age, sometimes their families, if they don't have the means to fund their education or their future aspirations, they let them, or it's not even a let, it's kind of like, I don't know if let is the right word, but they go live with relatives all over Nigeria who have the means to support whatever it is that these children will want to eventually do. Sometimes that means is money, and sometimes it's just the opportunity, just the fact that you have a place in a city that has more, that can offer more to that individual. That child many times will leave his or her nuclear family, his mom, his parents, who are not able to do that for him, and let him go stay with the family member who is going to be able to help him. In return, he's going to serve, help out in the home, in chores, or maybe in the person's business, whatever agreement or whatever the situation is in that particular home. So Chike is doing something that a lot of Nigerians do: leave their nuclear family and go to other family members, or sometimes it's not even family members, but go somewhere else to kind of begin their journey towards adulthood, towards funding and, establishing themselves and carving out a path and a future for themselves. So, he's only 11 years old, so it's hard for him and it's hard for his mom. This journey that he's embarking on, I have seen many people do it. Many people came and did it in our house. Luckily for me, I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to leave home. My parents had the means, they had the resources to take care of me, so I was at home. But I did go to boarding school very early in age. I was 10 years old when I left home, and I went to go live in boarding school with other young children. We had chaperones and teachers staying with us, of course, but I left home. So this is something that is not unusual in Southeast Nigeria, where little kids about 10, 11 years old are leaving their homes, and it's hard for the parents. Now that I'm a parent, I can't even imagine it. Like, I try to imagine that will be my kids right now, my first kid in a couple of years, and I'm just, I don't think I would have the heart. I don't think I'll be able to do it. And I don't know. I mean, of course, I'll do what is in the best interest of my for my child. If I come to the conclusion that my child will have a better chance at a future somewhere else, of course I'll let him or her go. But man, that would be so hard and heartbreaking. So of course Chike and his sisters are crying. Chike himself is crying too. When I left home to go to boarding school, I was crying too. I didn't think I would cry until the day, of course, I started crying. And that's what happened to Chike on the day to leave. He starts crying, and he goes over to Onitsha. Onitsha is in southeast Nigeria, and it's near River Niger. At the time that Chike is writing this, not Chike, I keep calling Chinua Achebe Chike. At the time that Chinua is writing this book, the Onitsha River, the Onitsha Bridge, it was still in construction. So I went back to research and I saw that it was still in construction. So the time that Chinua was writing this book, that bridge was not in existence. So everything that's happening is that Chike comes to Onitsha, and of course a whole new world is exposed to him. He had never seen a city. He had never seen so many things that he had never been exposed to. Even running water and being in the same compound as him was something that was, like I'm talking about plumbing, for people who may not know what I mean by running water. It was something that he had never seen before. So he was wowed by everything. In addition, he was told that across the river Niger, that runs through like South Nigeria, across it was a whole nother city, a whole nother world. That place is called Asaba. Fun fact, people in Asaba, people from Asaba and people from Onitsha speak very different language, have a different culture, it's a completely different language. This is for people who do not live in Nigeria, but even though they're in close proximity to one another, throughout, as time happened, I guess these groups of people developed their own different culture, their own different languages, and so on and so forth. So he kept being told about life across the river. He wanted to go see what was over there. To go over there, you had to pay and get on the ferry. So he became consumed with the idea of going across the river to go see what was on the other side. Something that I guess it's, when kids are adventurous, even human beings, adults, you want to see what else is out there, to see what else the world has to offer to you. And that's what he was going through. But like I said, he didn't have the means, so he didn't have the money. I think at the time it would have cost him 6 pence to go and 6 pence to come back. At first, he didn't even know that it was just 6 pence to go and another 6 pence to come back. He thought the round trip would cost him 6 pence. So, which gave me one of my favorite quotes from this book, which was, "To go Asaba no hard, not to return." If you know anything about the Igbo culture, we speak with proverbs. We even have a proverb about how we speak with proverbs. And the proverb says something like, that's ilu manu, as in the proverbs are it's the source to our dialogue. It's the source to our speech, So even when we speak other languages, we bring that source to it. We bring those proverbs to the new language. And in Pidgin, which a lot of people were communicating with at the time, and even now, the proverb became, "To go Asaba no hard, not to return." To go Asaba is not difficult. It's coming back. That is the hard part. And you can, extend that to other aspects of life, where it essentially means you have to think about the totality of an endeavor before you embark upon it, which is not what I'm doing in this year. This is the year of actions. We did go Asaba. When we get there, if we have to come back, we will now figure out how to come back. Okay. So even though to go Asaba no hard, we will go. We are going, because I tend to be thinking about the whole, how are we going to do that? Do I have enough money to come back from Asaba? No, so, but Chike had to think about all these things, and in fact, when he got to Asaba, he encountered difficulties that actually hindered him from coming back when he was supposed to come back. He had to learn a lot of lessons before he got there and when he got there. And like I said, if you have children, this is a good book because it teaches them about individuality, like I said, not succumbing to peer pressure, not finding honest ways to go after what you want, because he tried illicit ways to get this money to go to Asaba. And it didn't work. But God kept him. God kept him, and he didn't get in too much trouble. And he tried other ways, and eventually he was successful, So I highly recommend this book. Of course, anything by Chinua is a must. You have to. Why not? It's Chinua Achebe. Come on, So, but I especially recommend it for children too. Anyways, guys, this concludes our gist session, our long distance gist session on Chinua, Chinua's Chike and the River. I haven't even showed you the book. This concludes our session. I hope you had fun. I hope I inspired you to pick, if not this book, another book of your interest. And when you do, please call me. Let me know so we can have a gist session about that book, okay? Thank you so much. Until next time, adios.